Christmas came early this year with Santa bringing us many gifts. Aside from the total Trump victory on Election Day, a judge threw out the ridiculous indictments filed by Special Prosecutor Jack Smith, who's trying to imprison Donald Trump for the mostly peaceful protest at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. And now the Fani Willis case, which is like the only case that actually remains, is going to get thrown out as well. She's the Georgia prosecutor who indicted Donald Trump for calling some election officials down there, asking for a recount because a lot of those strange mail-in ballots just didn't have proper signatures or verification. And so just, God forbid, he calls up and starts asking for some accountability and some transparency. So that case is going to be gone. And a judge also just dismissed Ray Epps' defamation lawsuit that he filed against Fox News for Tucker Carlson and others just wondering what in God's name he was doing, calling for people to go inside the Capitol and then being caught on video, mysteriously whispering into this guy's ear just 2 seconds before he breaches the barrier and then does just that. Under a communist regime, you're not allowed to question these kinds of things, but we're entering a new era. We're entering MAGA 2.0, where Americans can ask reasonable questions about very odd and suspicious behavior from people like Mr. Epps. And the Democrats in Congress and their mouthpieces in the media continue to be confused about what exactly happened with the election. All they needed to do was to tune into this YouTube channel. I made it as clear as day, but they're still focusing their blame not only on racism and sexism, but also on Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, because Donald Trump did that podcast just days before the election. But surprisingly, Cloud News has been allowing conservative pundits to join their panels, like Scott Jennings, who actually does a pretty good job, and this guy who's trying to talk some sense into these lunatics.
And liberals drove him away by calling him a racist, unearthing jokes he made, calling him a misogynist, really with no evidence.
When you make racist
calling him
jokes
a transphobe,
about people of color,
calling him a
people
lot
calling
of
you
comedians
racist is likely going to happen
all the time.
Pipe down, lady. We're making racist jokes great again.
He actually hasn't shapeshifted very much, to your point. The Democratic Party has shapeshifted and driven him away and alienated his followers.
But trying to talk sense into Democrats is like talking to a brick wall. So obviously it's just in one ear and out the other.
I think what he ended up seeing was an American political sphere that shifted, and he found ways. He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. He found ways to walk into where those people were. Yes, he was a proud, ultra leftist, and then he became a proud person on the right, largely because he saw shifting towards the right, and that's where his money and his audience could come from. He shifted because more of his listeners shifted, and that's where he drove it to.
No, moron. The Democrat Party shifted so far left that traditional, moderate, blue-collar Democrats no longer wanted to have anything to do with them. Imagine drinking so much of the Democrat Party's Kool-Aid that you can't see how far off the rails the party has gone over the last 8 years, and being so out of touch that you think that Joe Rogan joined the Trump train for the money. Joe was a Johnny-come-lately. He didn't join the Trump train until literally the day before the election. He resisted supporting Donald Trump for years. Didn't have him on the show until just a few days before the election. Back in 2022, he said he didn't want to help him at all and was not a supporter and refused to have him on the show. One of the many podcasts that Donald Trump did this election cycle, because this was the podcast election. You may recall back in 2020, he still didn't do any podcasts. Only podcasts from kind of brand name, conservative Inc. types. But this time he was going on all kinds of independent podcasts to bypass the mainstream media, and in one of the smartest moves in political history to actually reach the voters where they are, because nobody's watching mainstream media anymore other than morons. But one of the podcasts that he did was Theo Vaughn's podcast. And it turns out that Kamala Harris, as usual, would not do the podcast. But then he also revealed this interesting piece of info.
Well, Kamala wouldn't come on podcasts, right? I thought that was weird. It was like, and we asked, and they said, well, do you guys give final edit, right? And they asked, did Trump ask for final edit?
Mm-hmm. Did he?
No. They didn't ask for anything.
They shouldn't, dude.
They didn't ask for anything.
This shows just how out of touch and desperate the Democrat Party is. They wanted final edit. They wanted editorial control over an interview in order to do a podcast. Sorry, clowns, but this isn't MSNBC. This isn't 60 Minutes. This is the new media. We are the media. And in order for the Kamala campaign to butter up Al Sharpton, who did an exclusive sit-down interview with Kamala, her campaign donated $500,000 to his racist shakedown organization. He's still the figurehead of the National Action Network, which is just an organization that sort of gloms on to anti-white causes and then just blames white people for all the problems in black people's lives. That's how he started his career. That's how he made his bones, off the Tawana Brawley hoax back in like the 80s. But the Kamala campaign doesn't know when to stop digging. And so some of her key staff, former staff for the campaign, just went on a podcast and blamed the mainstream media for Kamala failing. Not podcasters spreading right-wing propaganda, but the liberal media for not doing a good enough job.
I would say, I mean, look, I am not media hater by any measure. And I think that, we women don't get far in life talking about double standards. So that's not the point. But I do think a narrative, 107 days, 2 weeks up because of a hurricane, 2 weeks talking about how she didn't do interviews, which, she was doing plenty, but we were doing in our own way. We had to, be the nominee, had to find a running mate and do a rollout. I mean, there was all these things that you kind of want to factor in.
No, she wasn't doing interviews, and it was so odd and suspicious that even the mainstream media started asking, like, why won't she talk to us?
And then on top of that, we would do an interview, and to Stephanie's point, the questions were small and processy and about like
dumb.
They were not informing a voter who was trying to listen to learn more or to understand. And I'm not here to say that the whole system was focused on us incorrectly. I'm just saying, like, again, of the things we need to explore as we move forward as a campaign and as a country, that does a disservice to voters. And, I think back and think we should have signaled more of our strategy early on about podcasts and who we were trying to reach. But we had a limited amount of time to reach the people we were trying to reach, and we were trying to go to them. But being up against a narrative that we weren't doing anything or we were afraid to have interviews is completely bullshit, and also like took hold a little bit. And
just when you think they can't get any more delusional, and this isn't just some random political pundit, this is one of the key campaign staffers. When Kamala finally reluctantly agreed to do interviews, surprisingly, some of those interviews, which were from very friendly liberal outlets like CBS's 60 Minutes, were actually legitimate questions being posed to her. I never thought that I would actually hear this kind of quality question and pushback from a mainstream source so close to the election. And it turns out that Bill Clinton took Hillary's loss in 2016 almost as bad as she did, because happy wife, happy life. And with Hillary Clinton being, just one of the most miserable people on planet Earth as it is, imagine how compounded that was when she lost in 2016. So he has a new book out that just came out called Citizen: My Life After the White House. Even though I think he already had a memoir like decades ago, but he has another one because they need more money. And he reveals that he couldn't sleep for 2 years and that he was prone to outbursts of rage after Hillary lost. But can you blame him? Imagine what a nightmare it must be just having Hillary Clinton in your life as it is, especially after the 2016 election. But thankfully, we were saved from another cackling hyena becoming the president of the United States. And now the next time we'll hear from Kamala will be about a year from now when she comes out with her book about what happened. That is going to be fun because it's going to be a whole new round of humiliation as she is forced to sit face to face with those in the liberal media asking her what did happen. Like I said, it's going to be a MAGA Christmas and a happy 4 more years, which is why I did release that in a sweatshirt and a t-shirt, which you can order from the newly redesigned markdice.com or the Trump Claus sweatshirt or t-shirt or any of my awesome designs. And this weekend for Black Friday, you can save 20% off of anything by using the promo code, Black Friday at the checkout. Great if I know. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below. Order your Cat Lives Matter shirt, your Trump fight, the Christ is King, classic liberalism find a cure, the Teflon Don and Appeal to Heaven shirt, or any of my awesome designs. All available to t-shirt, long sleeve, and a hoodie, and a whole bunch of different colors as well. So head on over to markdice.com or click the link in the description below and check them out.